Well done, everybody. Thank you so much for prioritising some of your valuable time and joining the session today. My name is Grant. I'm one of the coaches, wellbeing coaches here at Wellbeing People, and welcome to our quarterly webinar all around financial wellbeing and mastering your money mindset. We've got a wonderful speaker that I'm going to introduce shortly. You can all see at the moment, but just before we kind of pick Ryan's brain and have a wonderful discussion about financial wellbeing, I just want to kind of highlight to everybody a little bit around housekeeping. I'm sure you can understand that part of the discussion here is really to invite you to share your story and your experiences and your thoughts and ideas and answers to some of the questions that we're going to be asking today. So please do that in that webinar chat function. You can see that many of you have dropped in already a little note. Please feel free to drop in there. If you want only your answers to be seen by myself and Ryan, just ensure that little drop down tab reads to host and panelists only. If you want your answers to be seen by everybody else on the session today, just ensure it reads to everyone. It's nice to create a little bit of a community in there, a little bit of a reflective tool so that everyone gets a sense of best practice and ideas and experiences. So please feel free to use that as well. If you have any specific questions today for Ryan, please use that Q&A tab and drop all of those questions in there as well. This session is being recorded and it will be used as a bit of a resource, so you will have an opportunity to rewatch this and access it at a later time as well. I think that's about everything. As I said, my name is Grant and I work with Wellbeing People. Wellbeing People is a business and organisation that helps empower people to live their best life for the longest, to live your best life for the longest. And that's what we're here doing today, is to offer you an opportunity to pause, reflect and come up for a bit of air. And if you haven't done so already, if you've just jumped from one meeting into this one, myself and Ryan invite you now just to pause, settle in, just for 30 to 45 minutes today. Grab yourself a nice warm drink or a glass of water. Give me a high five if you've got a bottle of water or a warm drink or a glass of water within arm's reach right now. Good stuff. Stay nice and hydrated. And as I said, ask questions. Let's tap into this wonderful reflective opportunity today. Without further ado, I think I'm going to introduce Ryan. So welcome, Ryan. If you can take yourself off mute.
That'd be a good start, wouldn't it? Hi.
There you go. Welcome. Now, Ryan, I'm dead excited to get stuck into today. I have been all week. It's going to be a wonderfully fascinating discussion, I'm sure. And just to let everybody know that Ryan, a little bit about Ryan. Ryan is the founder of FinWELL, which is a global award-winning financial education and wellbeing training company. And Ryan, if you just tell us or expand on that just a little bit more, just for everybody that's here listening.
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Grant, and all the team, and good to have everyone on. Thanks for taking the time. Just to warn you about the hot drinks, I might be brought a hot cup of tea any minute, which is very much needed. So I'll let you know if that happens. But yeah, so I'm Ryan. I background financial services, well, professional sport actually. Before that, financial services for over 10 years, diploma qualified in financial advice, and enjoyed that role, or parts of that role really. And more recently set up FinWELL, mainly to be a training company and help people improve their knowledge, their understanding, their confidence around all money matters throughout life's financial journey. So that's a little bit. I'm a dad. I've got 2 young children, 4 and 7. World School, World Book Day today was great. I'm also a mental health first aider. I'm really passionate about that. Really passionate about the links between mental health, financial well-being, and also suicide prevention. So I'm an ambassador of Ripple Suicide Prevention. If anyone knows that charity, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, really passionate. We've grown the business over the last couple of years and keen to work with as many people and help as many people as we can.
Fab. Love all that. And that's why it's such a fascinating opportunity for me, because in total transparency, I might have said this to you before, Ryan, that's one element. When I reflect around the Gallup's 5 essential elements of you have physical, career, communities, and social, and financial well-being is another element of those 5 essential elements. And it's that element of well-being for me that I feel needs a little bit of development, shall we say, or something that I find challenging to prioritize or invest in. But that word financial well-being gets used quite a lot. We've used it already a number of times, but what does it really mean? So just for clarity, to have us all pointing in the right direction, what does financial well-being really mean, Ryan?
Yeah, and again, going back to your point there, financial well-being is nothing new, at all. It's been around since we've been around, or money's been around, shall I say? But I think maybe in the corporate world and within work, it's maybe the pillar, if you want to call it that, of well-being that is the newer one. We've had lots of great work around mental health, mental well-being, physical, even social. But financial, if you look at it and you read any of the reports that are published, is probably one of the biggest drivers, if not the biggest driver of all of the others. So it's one that we have to take, attention of and consider it and get our heads around it. So what does it mean? That's a hard question because it means so many things to different people, and there is no one size fits all. It's probably best to start with what it isn't. We talk a lot about this on our workshops and what financial well-being isn't. Oh, I've got a cup of tea. No worries, thank you. But yeah, what it isn't. So it's not how much you earn. It's not, your bank balance. It's not, having the house, the car, all of that. Money is important, and I'd never say just don't worry about money. It's essential to live, right? And I think when we come to financial well-being, there's two elements to it. There's the educational, practical side of knowing how money works and what a pension is and how a mortgage works and interest and all of that educational stuff, which we're not taught at school, but we'll come on to that. I won't open that can of worms just yet. But then there's the other side. There's the other 50% or more that's the emotional side. It's all about the psychology of money and our relationship with money and why we do the things we do and our habits and our attitudes and our beliefs and our behaviors and biases and all that side of things, which fascinates me and fascinates our team. So it's different things to different people. It could be, just paying the bills and getting through and not having as much worry and stress. That's for me. I suffer a bit with financial anxiety. It could be just not feeling in control, of your spending, of your budgeting. It could be getting onto the property ladder and just not knowing how to do that, or saving for your future and having a bit more certainty about what's to come. It can absolutely mean so many things to different people. But I'd go back to that two-sided approach of kind of education and psychology in relationship with money, really.
Yeah, that's the one thing that since we've connected and reconnected, because wellbeing people have done a little bit of work with you before, and since we've been connecting again, it's made an interesting questions have popped up into my brain, namely why sometimes conversations around money feel so difficult to a person, and what might be some of the underlying reasons. I mean, you touched on a few, but I mean, if you're watching this now, and sometimes you find it difficult to talk about money, what might be some of those reasons that prevent you from kind of opening up, I guess? So what are your thoughts on that? What might be some of those underlying causes or reasons for why some people find it difficult, Ryan?
Yeah, there's a whole host. So if we start off with the lack of education, right? And I think we all know that. I'm not sure if many people on this call did learn about money matters at school. I know I definitely didn't. Yes, we do maths and that's really important, but just practical life skills that incorporate money, we didn't learn. So there's a lack of education anyway. So we kind of just get into work and start dealing with money and start learning from our own mistakes. If we're not lucky enough to have, I don't know, friends or family, parents, carers that have got some experience and can not teach us the wrong things as well, or be a good role model. But then, we talk about the stigma and the taboo as well. And this is huge. The links to mental health and wellbeing are so similar, but it's actually even worse. We're more likely now to talk about our mental health and wellbeing than we are about money, which is great. As a mental health first aider and passionate about that side, we've done some great work in this country and globally, but we're still quite far behind when it comes to money, maybe 5, if not 10 years behind, I think. So the shame, the stigma, the taboo, the British thing that we just don't talk about money, you know, and hide it, and the keeping up with the Joneses and the comparisons and the social media now. All of that kind of comes together, I suppose, to mean there's issues and challenges, and it's hard for us to start opening up and talking about. But that is the first step. That's what we always talk about. Talking about money, like mental health, is the first step.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think it's bringing it to the table, isn't it? And then, you know, opening up that door for people to walk through. And I guess, you know, when we try and start conversations about, is there anything to avoid? I mean, in terms of how we approach conversations about money in the workplace or with colleagues or friends or within your circle of influence, are there any mistakes that we make sometimes when it comes to opening up conversations about money?
I suppose choosing who you open up to is really, really important. You know, not everyone's going to have the skills or the confidence or the knowledge of how to react to that. But definitely, you know, if somebody does open up, how to respond, we make lots of mistakes, and, you know, we're putting some training together to try and help that. Making sure you're just open. And again, I keep going back to mental health, because I did mental health training in lockdown and learned so much from that. That the comparisons, the links, so similar. The fact of just being open, not thinking you have to come up with the solutions. You know, you don't have to know it all. Being non-judgmental. You know, just all of those skills really that either come naturally to someone or they do need to be learned are really important. So yeah, it's tough. The last thing you want is to open up to someone and to, you know, for things to be made worse, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, you touched on links there to mental health a number of times, and I mean, there's so much research now linking all of these things together, as you mentioned. It's a mental health, financial well-being, suicide as well. I guess has there been any kind of recent research or study or anything, any kind of statistics perhaps even that have shocked you or just made you kind of hold on a second, that's really landed? Is there anything that's landed with you recently?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of, it's encouraging. There's lots of research and stats and guides that are published now, specifically around financial well-being and the links to mental health and well-being as well. Some stats that we share, you know, just around confidence, the fact that over 50%, and some of these stats are taken from pre-COVID and pre-pandemic, so they have got worse in a lot of cases. But just the general confidence, most of us are not confident when it comes to managing money, is surprising to some. But then you go through and looking at the links between financial well-being and the impact it has on our physical well-being, the links to lack of sleep and not getting good quality sleep, and then our nutrition that's impacted as well, and not getting the right foods. And the main one for me is probably the links to suicide, and the fact that, you know, additional stresses or pressures around money just massively increases the potential for thoughts around self-harm or suicide. And if anything, from our work, we really want to just highlight that link between those three areas. I think it's hard to deny, really. And I said to you beforehand, I've got a love-hate relationship with stats, because I think they can be used and manipulated a bit. But I think that's one that we can't really deny, you know, that our money affects us in most areas of our life as we go along, you know, our journey. And to have some sort of grip on that will help. And to get into a downward spiral can cause, you know, huge side effects, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we just had a question pop up here.
Great.
I'm just going to, as soon as they pop up, I'm just going to just like blurt them out. And with
Do it.
So someone said here, is financial understanding between the gap in our children's education is too long for too long. My children have been out of education for years, so not sure if it's been addressed over recent years. Are there plans for a refocus around financial well-being in terms of education, Ryan?
Yeah, and I didn't want to paint too much of a negative picture for anyone who's had a nice positive day so far and just come in and like, oh, all these problems. But there are solutions, and it is encouraging to see things are being done. So to answer that question, Yes, there is a petition that's happening at the moment. It was started by Louise Hill at Go Henry. If anybody knows Go Henry and the cards for kids, and they do some great stuff. But them and My Bank are a charity that are involved with financial education and young enterprise. So a few organisations got together and are really driving this agenda. And they managed to get, the 10,000 signatures that are needed. So it went to Parliament. The response wasn't, that positive. It was basically saying we are already doing it, which I kind of I understand where they're coming from, because they probably have put provisions in place. There's a bit of a disconnect, though, between maybe schools and teachers and the curriculum and what's actually achievable. So it's encouraging to see that is happening, but that also leaves a vast number of us that are at work or our parents.
Yeah.
And, where do we go? And also, how do we teach our children? That's a massive part of our work, is not just educating and empowering adults of all different ages, but how can we then, educate our children if it's not being done at schools or alongside that?
Yeah. And I'm curious because, because you mentioned you got two young children. My children are a little bit older. I've got two girls who are 16 and 13. And so are there any kind of, well, what do you do as a parent to kind of develop the mindset around financial well-being with your kids, or what would be useful for other people to know?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give a shout out to a free resource for everyone. There's a chap called Will Rainey, who's our specialist. So how we work at FinWELL is we've got a team of people that all specialize in different areas and different topics and themes. Will's, one of the leading people on educating parents and children. It's funny, it's educating children, but sneakily the parents are learning as well. So you can kind of be like, oh yeah, no, I need to help my child. But it's like, oh, is that really how investing works or the stock market works? So Will Rainey, Blue Tree Money is his company. So check that out if you want. But some of the things I do, I don't know, I'm not perfect when it comes to it. One sort of interesting stat that people might not know is that there's an age that our relationship with money is actually ingrained in us by. And a lot of people think, oh, what would that be? And we sometimes do interactive polls on it and ask questions and give prizes away and things like that. But some people might think, oh, well, is it probably like 17, 18 as you're getting towards adulthood, or maybe in your 20s when you might be getting on the property ladder if you're lucky. But it's actually 7. So the age of which our relationship with money is ingrained in us by, not from, so it's not from 7 up, it's by 7. And my son is 7. So I don't know what sort of job we've done with him, but that's really fascinating to me. The fact that our childhood, and whether or not we have access to money at a young age, and we pick up on this as kids, obviously, has a massive impact if money is spoken about openly in the household, which is probably not in this country. And as we've discussed, if it's a cause for, stress in the household at different times and openly talked about in the negative way, possibly. If you've got access to money from a young age, if you experience earning money or doing jobs, and Will actually talks about the fact that pocket money is the most underused, educational tool going, because it's such a great thing. My kids, I know for a time, just thought that you could get anything you wanted as long as you had one of these little plastic things that you could just make a noise. And then it might be your phone, or your a watch even, and the disconnect from emotion between transactional purchases has been done intentionally, if we're honest, by organizations and marketing and advertising, but I won't go there. But yeah, we try and do what we can. We try and talk about money as much as we can, talk about when we can afford things and when we can't and why we can't, and the value of money. We do our best, but yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, well, it's interesting reflecting around those things. It takes me back to, I was just having a conversation this morning actually with a colleague about my first experience with money, really about earning money, was that I wanted I don't know how old I was very young, and I wanted a Nike jacket, a hoodie, or something like that, and it cost, crikey, I think it was like £16 or something, £18, whatever it was. But this was way back, you know,
I
during
didn't
the
want to
war.
say it. I didn't want to say how long
Way
ago
back
it would
when, you
be.
know. And I remember, you know, I was doing a paper round and I was earning like £2 a week. And my mum, you know, quite clearly said, okay, I understand you want X, you know, you're earning this much. How are you gonna get that? And it was a life lesson, wasn't it? It's important to make that connection between how much you earn and the
Yeah,
desires, and are they realistic and things like that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
really fascinating. So developing that culture and normalizing those conversations are incredibly important, both at home. But what about at work then? So when we talk about kind of financial well-being in the workplace, how can leaders and organizations support their employees to feel more motivated, feel more confident when it comes to managing their money?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's obviously why we created FinWELL. We specifically work with employers rather than individuals, employers and employees rather than individuals or consumers, so to speak. I suppose the first question is, well, why should they? You know, we get that a lot. Why should we? Is it our responsibility? Some people think it is. Some people think it isn't. I personally think there's an element to both, and that ultimately responsibility comes down to us as individuals. But I'd say that employers should try and flip it, really, that it's not just a responsibility, it's actually an opportunity in a really tough world, you know, for businesses to try and differentiate themselves, to try and attract the best talent, retain the best people, and get the most out of people, to try and offer financial education, financial well-being as, you know, a part of their employee benefits, reward, learning, development, whatever you want to call it. So important, because what we've said already, the links to mental health, the links to productivity, performance, absenteeism, whatever it might be. But once a company maybe has got over that, there's loads of things that they can do, and loads of things they can do for free, and not trying to, you know, not promote our company or our services. The first step we talk with companies is about, well, what have you already got in place, and how can you enhance what you've got? What providers are you working with? What benefits do you have? And then what is out there for free? Because there's lots of great stuff, and it's knowing maybe, you know, what's good and what's not, and not being overwhelmed by it. But the biggest thing that we start with companies is that culture piece. And I said it before, the first step for us is talking about money, and creating a psychologically safe space, which we talk a lot about in the wellbeing world, to have open conversations and to make it feel like a little bit less scary and not judgmental. And you know what, the fact that we're all going through this in different ways, it's affecting everyone in different ways, some more than others, obviously. Excuse me. But we talk about, in nearly every one of our workshops, we talk about the storms and the boats, and the fact that, you know what, we're not in the same boat when it comes to this. I remember in lockdown and COVID, people on the call might have heard this or even said it. I know I do. We're all in the same boat, and it kind of makes us feel a little bit, I don't know, safer maybe, but we're not actually. You know, we might be in the same storm with the cost of living crisis and everything that's going on, but we're in very different boats. Some people, you know, just sailing through more than others, having to row that much harder and really work harder, and some of us are really drowning. So I think creating a safe, psychologically safe space, bringing leadership and employee teams together to talk about this in a safe environment, but then also acknowledging that this is going to impact different people in your organization in very different ways. Any support that you do put together needs to be really diverse and inclusive, and personalized at different stages of life, you know, targeted to people earning different amounts of money, different job roles, elements of neurodiversity we're seeing absolutely huge, you know. So the way that people learn is not the same. So group workshops, although we love them and, you know, we've done lots of them, are not for everyone, or people might not be ready for that. So having an open approach to various forms of support and training and you know, educational content is really, really important. I could go on all day probably. So
well, a couple of things jump out at me as you're speaking there. The first was that we're all kind of, we all have a unique relationship with money. So having that non-judgmental approach and raising awareness, and the wonderful analogy of we're all in the same, we're all experiencing the same storm, but just in different boats is very apt, isn't it? Because when we think of other elements of our well-being, we're all completely unique. Just because it works well for me, it might not necessarily work well for another person. So yeah, very important to recognize. And also what you said about accountability and responsibility. So being a typical partnership, is it the organization's responsibility to create an environment for their employees to thrive and grow and develop, or is it the individual's responsibility to just take charge and accountability for their own choices? And typically in other elements of well-being, we notice that there's a partnership, a sense of collaboration and personal ownership, as well as ownership from the organization.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it depends, I suppose, on the organisation, and it might be a charity, it might be a profit-making organisation. So there's an element of responsibility, I'd say, to look after your people. But again, if we're going to really see real impact and real change with this, normally we see it with profit-making businesses anyway, when it's either legislation and it's enforced, and that's coming, believe it or not. So this will happen in the not too distant future. But just to look at the business commercial sense of doing it, and there's some great research out there as to why it's so important for the business, to reduce absenteeism and reduce recruitment costs and everything else. There has to be a business argument and justification. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But that's where it comes down to measuring impact and making sure it is measurable, and that you can see what's working and what's not, and what is needed by asking your people what do they want. And we haven't got like an off-the-shelf platform or app that we just try and sell to every company. It really takes a bit of time to learn what their people want, what they need, what the demographics of their people are, and start to tailor and personalize the support around that, really, over an extended period of time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's incredibly important to think individually and collectively when it comes to financial well-being and what that really means within the workplace. We spoke briefly there about some opportunities and strategies that organizations can utilize to support their employees to feel more motivated and more secure. But what about individuals? So we spoke about what it is, and the effects, but what can we actually do? Are there really useful tips or steps that I can take as an individual, that people that are watching this as individuals might say, okay, well, what can I actually do, Ryan?
Yeah,
what are
sure.
your thoughts?
Yeah, so we talk we talked about the lack of education and lack of confidence. So we know that's an issue. What else comes up as big as those areas is avoidance and denial. And I come from personal experience and use personal experience as what drives me probably with our company, that until you acknowledge there might be an issue or what it is that you need to focus on, or how you can take the next step forward, it just won't get done. And we're all brilliant at just putting it off and thinking, oh, it'll be all right, we'll get through it in the end. And the relief on the flip side of that, once you do take action and feel empowered to actually do something, whether it be financial well-being or any other area of your life, is massive, right? We feel so much better once we've just got a bit of a plan. It doesn't have to be the perfect plan, but it's a plan, and it can change. But it might be useful. The biggest challenge we had going into companies of all sizes, whether they be 10 employees or 10,000, the challenge was the same, and that was to come up with a way that people could take away some practical tips, whatever their age, income level, family situation, all the things I mentioned. And we came up with a 4-step guide, which might be useful. Happy to share it, called your power plan. So it's your FinWELL power plan. It's spelt incorrectly on purpose, just because that worked for the acronym. So you have to go with it. But it's PAWA for power. And the first, I won't go through all of it, but the P in power is all about your personal money score. So this is a way, I mentioned how important it is probably to measure, financial well-being, just like anything else. If we was looking to improve our physical well-being and we wanted to lose weight or gain muscle mass or improve sleep or hydration, whatever it might be, we would probably try and measure something first, and then we would do something, and then we would remeasure it and see if we're on track.
Sure.
It's no different to financial well-being. So there's actually 5 elements to financial well-being. Feel free to make any notes if that's useful, and there's stuff on our website. And we do this. We've done this with thousands of employees globally, because it's the same wherever you go, really. So that the 5 areas, first of all, is around your confidence, and we have a kind of a traffic light system for people to score themselves between either 0 and 10 or 0 and 20. We'll do 0 and 10 for this exercise, but with 0 being, feeling really negative, in crisis mode pretty much, up towards 10, which is pretty much thriving, you really got a handle on it, really confident, and somewhere in between would be kind of surviving or just getting through. So the first one, your general confidence, as I said, that stat is bad. In the UK, we're just not confident. So just how do you feel when it comes to managing money? Most of us are not confident. Maybe give yourself a score out of 10 on that. We then talk about relationships with money. Again, I mentioned that, and that's looking back and thinking, okay, how do I feel when it comes to money? And it doesn't just mean I just want more of it. It could be that, I earn good money, and I'm not in masses of debt, but I don't like spending it, or as soon as it comes in, it goes out too quickly. And I've got a bad relationship with money when it comes to that. So again, having some time to reflect on it and score yourself possibly out of 10 is useful. Our ability to pay bills is the next one. So that's quite black and white. It's just getting through the month and looking at our spending habits and our budgeting, and separating what needs to go out. So a score out of 10. Some people are great at that. Some people are not so good. And normally, what's quite interesting within a couple, one tends to be better than the other. So you normally have one that deals with the money, and sorts all that out and decides what you can and can't spend the money on. And then the next one is financial resilience, a huge one. That we have some big issues in this country and globally, and that's around just having some money behind us. So emergency funds, and not living month to month, and the huge stress and anxiety that causes, and the uncertainty of, I don't know, unexpected bills or an emergency that might come up.
Yeah.
And then having to maybe turn to friends, family, or get into debt and borrow money, and the potential downward spiral that could cause. So having some money behind us, and we always get asked, well, that's great, Ryan, but how much is enough? How much should we need? And there's no right or wrong answer with this, but as a rule of thumb and as a guide, we suggest to try and work out what your monthly outgoings are, and try and work up to that. Try and put an affordable amount away at the start of the month, maybe as a regular automated payment into a separate account, and work up to that 1 month's worth. And then once you've achieved that, maybe 2 to 3 months, and anywhere between 3 and 6 months worth of your kind of monthly outgoings is a real healthy place to get to. And I know it's really, really hard, especially at the moment, and people are maybe surviving a little bit more than thriving, but really useful. So that's financial resilience. And then the last one is future plans, and having some idea about pensions and investments, and how much is needed to achieve the lifestyle we might desire in later life. And that's changed a huge amount. The whole retirement landscape, the fact that we're living longer, and we might need that money to last longer. Some of us are retiring earlier or semi-retiring, rather than kind of getting to a certain age and kind of stopping completely, which has proven to not be that healthy. But yeah, just understanding how that all works and how much is needed, and getting a handle on the numbers, and are we on track? Giving yourself a score out of 10 on that one is really important. And then just looking at those scores and adding them up. If you've scored yourself out of 10, add them up, and you double it to get a score out of 100. And then you can sort of see where you're at, and at least have a starting point and a benchmark to work from. And the whole idea is that maybe some areas of those 5 you might be lower than others, so you might need to work on those, and then it's all about empowering yourself to take action. And that's where the other areas of the power plan come in. The second A, just really quickly, the second A is just areas of focus, and looking at what stage of life are you at and where do you need to focus. The W is what your next steps might be. Do you need to access educational content to improve your knowledge and your confidence? Do you need some sort of guidance, whether it be workshops or one-to-one support, or do you need advice? And that's where kind of the more regulated advice side comes in. But yeah, sorry, there's a lot there. I don't know if that's useful for anyone.
No,
but
great,
yeah.
brilliant. I love that. And sometimes we do need that little structure. And I love the scaling questions are brilliant, right? Especially for this sorts of thing. And in terms of kind of subjective observation and subjective gathering, that subjective information is wonderful. Yeah, really, really good. That it flicked a switch when you were talking about financial resilience, having the flexibility to grow and shrink. And I, in my brain, I just drew an analogy to arteries and blood pressure.
Yeah.
It was an interesting thing that popped into my brain. We've had a question pop up here, just in the chat there. It said the cost of living crisis has hit hard. With costs increasing rapidly, it can be hard to make ends meet, let alone have anything left over to save for emergencies. What would your advice be for people who just can't save for a rainy day?
Yeah, and as I said at the start, this is harder than it was before, and I make no light of this, that it's tougher than ever at the moment. So I don't know. We work with people on a one-to-one basis, and sometimes, if you start looking at budgets and looking at spending, there might be some wiggle room. There might be some savings that you're unaware of. Sorry. There might be benefits that you're entitled to. So there's a website called Turn to Us and entitled to as well that you can look at, and it takes you through. A big myth that we come across is that benefits are only for those that are not in work, that are unemployed, right? And that's just not the case. There are various benefits that you might be entitled to for various reasons. So that could help, but how can you do it? Just really getting close to the numbers, starting small. It can be a bit overwhelming. 3 to 6 months of how am I going to get there? But just starting small. A big tip is to set it up as an automatic payment, because if you try and get through the month and save what's left, I can guarantee that there won't be much left, or it'll be that much harder. So doing it at the start of the month and then getting used to not having that little bit of money, and you'd be surprised how you can get through that. Just savings that are out there, whether it's employee benefits that you might have at work, and cash plans and discounts, looking at your spending and reducing that. There's loads of ways, but it's really hard. We have had situations where there's just no more give. You're doing everything, and the only option there is to try and generate more income, or look at other ways of earning money. And I suppose one positive possibly of COVID, if I can say that, and lockdown and the use of the internet and a lot of the additional industrious ways that people can look at making more money now, whether it's selling things or getting things that aren't being used, or side hustles, you see lots of now. And it's hard though. I don't want to sort of make light to say, oh yeah, everyone can just do this. It is tricky.
I think that what I took from that was that it's okay to start where you are, and as long as you do start that, then you've taken that action step, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the absolute biggest thing. And the A, just to go back to the power plan, someone's put how we can get access to it. There's some videos about it on our website, that you can just sort of go through it and do it yourself. But the A is probably the most important step, and that is to feel empowered to take action. There's no point in scoring yourself and getting your, establishing your areas of focus and knowing what your next steps are if you don't do anything. And a couple of tips that we share on that is, one, to just allocate time. We're so busy and life is so hectic, and we're juggling so many plates that it can just remain on the to-do list forever, So just allocating time, whether it's of 20 minutes, it doesn't have to be, I'm going to sit down for an hour or whatever, just 20 minutes to sit down, of an evening or a weekend. Once it's in the diary as well, stick to that, but then you can forget about it. You can get on with your life and not worry so much. That's the first step. I feel better if I've just got something in the diary, so I know I can think about it or worry about it then, and not in between. And the second tip that we share a lot is to try and buddy up with someone. So going back to that talking about money thing, whether it's a colleague or a friend or a family member or a partner, finding someone that is maybe in a similar position and have got, the similar areas of focus possibly, and to do it together and to research and find the resources that are going to help you do it together, make yourself accountable with that person, and try and have a bit of fun with it. Like, I don't know, money is such a serious thing, and I know it is serious, but if we can sort of make it a bit fun, we try and do this in our workshops and try and make it engaging and interactive and have that conversation going and having a bit of hope that things can get better, and again, if we link back to mental health and well-being, it's huge, things can get better. We work with, just a bit of a shout out to an organization that everyone should write down and know about. I'd love it if they did. It's called Step Change. And this, they're the biggest debt charity in the UK. And the amount of one-to-ones and conversations we've had with employees where things are, not so great, and debt is becoming unmanageable and spiraling downwards, and they just don't know where to turn, don't think that there's anything out there. And to be able to talk to them about Step Change and not just say, oh, have a look at Step Change, there's a website, go and look at it, because that just won't happen. And I've been in a personal situation with that, personal experience, where you're just frozen, you can't take action, you just are incapable of doing anything. The answer could be right in front of your nose, but you can't do it. So effectively talking to someone about what they do, the fact that Step Change you can contact them confidentially, you can speak to people, they can give you some breathing space, they can contact your providers to stop the letters and the debt, mounting. They can put plans in place to try and, start to repay that or consolidate the debts. There's a debt test on there, a 60-second debt test that you can go on and do. So for every organization that we work with, and even those that we don't, we want them to have that as a tool, at least, that they can communicate that effectively to their workforces, not necessarily directly for them, because if you kind of put on anything around debt, you'll be surprised how no one will turn up. But if you flip it and position it that, have the knowledge of this information in case you know anyone that might need it, and then they can kind of have that in the back of their mind, but also think of it for themselves. So yeah, loads of stuff with Step
Fabulous.
Change.
Ryan, I'm conscious of time. I feel like we could talk and pick your brains for ages. It's wonderful. You've got such a deep knowledge of opportunity and different tools as well that you've directed us to. Has been really, really helpful today. So thank you so much. One of the questions was, how can we access, or someone dropped in a question, how can we access certain things? And I've just popped up. Hopefully, just give me a high five in the chat if you can see this holding slide. Has that popped up for everybody? Yeah, okay, fab. Yeah, as you can see, pull your phones out wherever you are, and as you can see, we popped up a QR code here that takes you directly to Ryan's website, and this particular QR code takes you to the FinWELL Champion training page, which is a fairly new product, I guess. Ryan, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about that page before we finish up?
Yeah, definitely. I was just checking it myself to see if it worked there, Grant, and good news, it does. Yeah, so brilliant. I mean, there's two things I'd love to just share with everyone. The first actually is something that we've launched to help employees and individuals and businesses, and that's Financial Wellbeing Month. So we're in the lead up to it now. It's April. It's the first ever one we've done. It's in partnership with Ripple Suicide Prevention, who I mentioned I'm an ambassador for, and also Mental Health First Aid England. So we're beyond delighted to have both of those on board. And there's various events. If you go onto that website, it's financialwellbeingmonth.com. There's loads of free resources that you can take a look at, loads of videos. There's loads of companies. You can sign up to your support of it for free as a company. And there's a whole host of events that are happening throughout April with all of our team that really explore different life events and the impact it might have on financial wellbeing and mental health, from menopause to neurodiversity, to bereavement, financial control, economic abuse, lots of different stuff. So take a look at that. And then, yeah, just the champion training is something we got asked to develop and then deliver, for the last year or so. So we've been working hard to do this. And it's really similar to to mental health training and first aid training, but upskilling senior leaders, managers, HR, mental health first aiders, whatever, people that are, in organizations to help others and to help their teams, but not just around the mental side, around financial health and, spotting the signs, how to have empathetic conversations with people, how to effectively signpost. I talked a little bit about it there with step change, and rather than just saying kind of look on the intranet or look on a website, how to effectively signpost to people and do a bit of hand holding. So there's the opportunity to get involved with that in the lead up to April, and throughout April we're offering a bit of a discount on that. So 10% is off the normal price, and also 5% will go towards the initiative and will be split between Ripple and Mental Health First Aid England as well.
Brilliant stuff. Yes, absolutely. I would encourage there's so much resource in that in your on your website. There's a wonderful resource page in there as well, that directs you all to sorts of different resources, which is wonderful. You'll also notice another QR code that's on there that takes you to the Wellbeing People's optimal wellbeing checklist, which gives you a PDF that you can download, print off, give you a little bit of insight in different elements of our wellbeing as well, and perhaps some experiments to improve those areas if you want to. One question has just popped up. It said, will there be a recording? I'd love to share this on and play this forward. So yes, definitely this session is being recorded, and you will be able to access it fairly shortly. You can contact us at Wellbeing People for that recording, but it will be on our platforms. We will post it on our platforms and in YouTube as well. I think, oh, by the way, everybody, I've launched the feedback poll. Please feel free before you escape today to jump on that feedback poll and just complete that feedback poll. That would be amazing. I'd just like to ask Ryan one final question, which I really enjoy asking loads of different people. I'm sure loads of people, and I invite everybody who's listening still here to answer this question. Ryan, what does optimal well-being mean to you?
We didn't discuss this one before, did we? Blimey, you really put me on the spot here.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, whether you call it optimal well-being or a healthy relationship with money or positive financial well-being, whatever you want to call it, for me, it's about being able to sleep at night and having an element of control, feeling like not I'm in control completely, because you never can be, but being on top of things and having a bit of a plan for the future, being able to pay the bills to a certain degree, not needing loads of money to do extravagant things, but having things to look forward to, and having some hope for the future. That'd be for me.
Love it. Yeah, look at that. There's someone's just dropped in straight away. Being able to sleep. Yes, nailed it, Ryan.
Yeah, very important.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Ryan, thank you so much. As I said, a wealth and fountain of knowledge and information. Thank you so much for sharing all of your experience and knowledge with us today. As we said, we invite people to connect with Ryan and his products in his FinWELL page. So please feel free to do that. And thank you for your all attendance today. It's been lovely to get some sort of reaction and interaction in that chat function. Thank you all for your questions and your thoughts and your ideas. And again, Ryan, thank you so much for sharing your time.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. Thank you all for the engagement. I love this on the sort of sessions we do, just loads of chat and getting that talking about money going. I think that's the first step. So if anyone wants to get in touch, more than happy to chat and help if I can.
Real. Well, thank you, Ryan. I invite everybody, before you escape, complete your feedback poll. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a fun and productive day, and let's go talk about money a little bit more and see how we get on. But thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.